Welcome. In this module, we're going to take a look at the stages of a third-party penetration test, which consist of system port scanning, identification of system services, identification and verification of system vulnerabilities, penetration testing, and system exploitation is the fourth step. But let's talk about system port scanning. Now, port scanning is one of the most important phases of a vulnerability assessment exercise prior to a penetration test. This will be the first tool used by an attacker once he or she has identified the IP address to be targeted. The key part here is to use a multiple of port scanning tools in order to ensure the least false positives and the maximum information that can be gathered. The second activity in the stages of the third-party penetration test is identification of system services. By the way, Nmap is usually used in order to categorize the ports. Now, in the identification of system services, once the open ports have been enumerated and identified, it is important to determine the services that are keeping those ports open. So now, what services are being run on those ports? This is typically done by analyzing the banners thrown back when a default connection is made to the open port. The latest Nmap version allows this to be done using the SV switch. The third step is identification and verification of system vulnerabilities. Now, during the vulnerability identification, an assessor will perform several activities to detect exploitable weak points. These activities include identify vulnerable services using service banners, perform vulnerability scan to search for known vulnerabilities, information regarding known vulnerabilities, and information regarding known vulnerabilities can be obtained from the vendor's security announcements or from public databases such as Security Focus, CVE, or CERT advisories. And then you need to perform false positives and false negative verification, example by correlating vulnerabilities with each other and with previously acquired information. Then you will enumerate discovered vulnerabilities and estimate the probable impact, which means that you would classify the vulnerabilities found, and finally identify attack paths and scenarios for exploitation. This is all part of the third stage, which is identification and verification of system vulnerabilities. The fourth and last stage is penetration testing, which is actual system exploitation. And here we follow the approvals of the individual attacks. Following the approvals of the individual attacks by customer, the assessor tries to gain unauthorized access by circumventing or going around the security measures in place and tries to reach as wide a level of access as possible. This process will have the following steps. First, you find the proof of concept or the code or the tool. You find the proof of concept code available in your own repository or from publicly available sources to test for vulnerabilities. If the code is from your own trusted repository and thoroughly tested, you can use it. Otherwise, test it in an isolated environment. Develop the tools or the scripts. And then under some circumstances, it will be necessary and cost-effective for assessors to create their own tools and scripts. And finally, test proof of concept code tool in an isolated environment. And the proof of concept code tool is used against the target to gain as many points of unauthorized access as possible. And finally, we document the findings. So these are the four stages of the third-party penetration test. And while you are negotiating or trying to find out the competence of a security vendor, a third-party vendor, you should actually discuss with them what approach they're going to follow, and it should consist of all the four steps that we've mentioned in this module. Thank you.